Please be seated. Good morning. On behalf of the Superintendent of Lowell Public Schools, Dr. Joel Lloyd, the Lowell High School Head of School, Mr. Michael Fiato, and the Air Force Junior ROTC instructors, we would like to welcome you to our 26th Annual Salute to Veterans Ceremony. My name is Cadet Colonel Brittany Thatch, the MA 771 Vice Wing Commander. I would like to extend a warm welcome and thank you to all those in attendance today. We would especially like to welcome any distinguished visitors who have taken time out of their busy days to join us in the celebration. We would also like to welcome all the LHS teachers, staff, and students present to watch today's tribute. At this time, please rise for the presentation of the colors and the singing of our national anthem by the Lowell High School Sound and Orchestral Choir under the direction of Mr. Michael Winston. Please remain standing until the color guard has moved from the front of the stage. Thank you, and you may be seated. Please welcome to the podium the MA 771 Squadron 1 Commander, Cadet Major Margaret Coco.
Every year, our first-year cadets compete in Air Force Junior ROTC essay contest to honor our veterans. I would now like to announce the cadets who have been chosen to receive the AFJ ROTC Achievement Ribbon for their excellent writing about what Veterans Day means to me. Cadet Airman Basic Douglas Pistol of 8th Flight. And Cadet Airman Basic Ariane Mercado of State Flight. Great job, cadets, on your amazing essays, and congratulations on this accomplishment.
Now, before we pay tribute to our veterans, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today's guest speaker, Dr. Roxane Howe. Dr. Howe spent 4 years in the U.S. Army and worked in the military intelligence career field. After leaving military service, She worked in the technology and public accounting fields. Dr. Howe is in her 28th year, first as a business teacher, and is currently the Lowell High School Director of Discipline and Operations. Dr. Howe holds degrees from Merrimack College, Revere College, and UMass Lowell. Please welcome Dr. Howe to the podium.
Good morning, and Dasvidanya. Thank you to the ROT program for inviting me to be the guest speaker at this year's Veterans Day ceremony. It truly is an honor. The early invite gave me plenty of time to think about what I wanted to share with you. Should I take advantage of this time to talk about the history of women in the military? Should I talk about the obstacles that women face joining a male-dominated field? Or should I discuss my war, the Cold War, and its political and military implications? I had to remind myself that I was asked to make it personal, answering how I came to join the Army and what my experience was like. In preparation, I reread my letters home that I hadn't looked at for decades, reminding myself of what was happening in the world when this 18-year-old girl from New Hampshire raised her hand and swore to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The Vietnam War had been over for several years, so I'm not from that era. But with the war ending, the military draft also ended, and the volunteer army took its place. Without the draft, military recruitment was challenging, and the military recognized that they needed to adapt to become more inclusive. This meant reaching out to women, who at this point made up only 8.5% of the active military. A major selling point for the military was that they offered equal pay, which was not available in civilian life. But even though they offered equal pay, they did not offer equal opportunity at this time. And I'm so happy that we are now at that point where there is equal opportunity. So the spring of my senior year, a phone call and a question changed the trajectory of my life. This was a time of landlines. There was no cell phones. And so it was the responsibility of whoever was closest to the phone in the household to answer. The phone rang, I answered, and it was actually for me. It was a cold call from an Army recruiter. We had been raised to be very polite on the phone, so I answered his questions. He was asking me what my plans were after graduating from high school. And so I talked to him, I shared with him that I was in the process of deciding between two colleges and that I was really struggling about what I wanted to major in. So then he asked me the question that changed everything. He said, what are you taking right now in high school? And this was a different era. I had 4 classes my second semester. English 4, French 3, German 2, Russian 1. With that answer, he immediately said to me, I can send you to the top language school in the country, and we will pay you, and all you have to commit to is 4 years active duty and 2 years in active. Now, I did not grow up playing Army. There was no military presence in my high school, and I didn't know if anybody joined the military. My only exposure to the military was watching World War II movies on Sunday afternoons. This military service idea was a complete surprise to me, even more of a surprise to my family and my friends. But I had always been a reader, and it instilled in me this desire to see the world. So I was intrigued, and I went to talk to him. One thing led to another, and I was offered a slot at the Defense Language Institute to study Russian. So basic training saw me in Missouri, first time out of my state. I head to Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood. We affectionately called it Fort Lost in the Wood, Missouri. Basic training is where you learn about the military, its rules, regulations, and its customs. It's a time of forced road marches, running, cadence, push-ups, qualifying during my time on the M16, firing machine guns, light anti-tank weapons, throwing hand grenades, learning to trust your gas mask by being gassed, learning first aid, bivouacking, going through obstacle courses. just being tested both physically and mentally, and learning that you can do anything you set your mind to, that you can meet any challenge. It was quite the experience for this 18-year-old girl. So next up in your military progression is you get trained in your job. So my job was a 98 Gulf voice intercept operator. This required me, after my year of studying Russian in Monterey, California, beautiful Monterey, to head and getting my top secret security clearance, heading to Texas for 3 months. So there I learned I had voice intercept training, and my job was to listen to the Soviet military radio transmissions to determine what they were doing, where they were doing it, their tactics, and their weapons capability. With my training finally over, I was assigned to the 307th MI Battalion in West Germany. This was a tactical unit whose purpose was to analyze signals intelligence from across the Iron Curtain, where the Soviets were deployed in East Germany. This was a time of two standing armies, NATO and the Warsaw Pact, facing off at the height of the Cold War. President Reagan had designated the USSR the evil empire. With regular war games happening on both sides of the border throughout the year, tensions were almost always high. So during one exercise, my unit had the opportunity to go to the border. This made our purpose for being in Germany so very real for us. The approach to the border consisted of one warning sign after another. Across a no man's land of mines, barbed wire, guard towers, guard dogs, and heavily armed East German soldiers. That's what we experienced when we got there, and they were not there to keep us out. This is what is so amazing looking back. They were there to keep their citizens in, to keep them from experiencing the freedoms and basic rights that we took for granted in the West. Despite the long hours in the field and on base, there was definitely benefits for being in Europe. The ability to travel. For me, it was Munich, London, Paris, Salzburg. The other benefit of my time in Europe is that on a military exercise, I met the person who still makes my heart smile. I was on guard duty with a loaded M16 at the entrance to a secure site. We exchanged words and recognized each other's accents. From that chance encounter, we will be celebrating our 39th wedding anniversary next week. That's me admitting my age. That 18-year-old girl from Manchester, New Hampshire, got to travel the world, experience some amazing things, and ended up in Lowell, Massachusetts, just 30 miles away from where she started. I was definitely proud to be a member of the United States Army, but I will admit, after 4 years, I was ready to be a civilian again. No more inspections, alerts, field training exercises, cleaning the barracks, field stripping the M16, spit shining boots, doing preventative maintenance on Army vehicles, getting up at dark 30 for PT, unit runs, road marches. In the Army, I learned so much about myself and what I was capable of, and I was ready to move on. As a civilian, I was one of the many, and I'm not embarrassed to admit this, who cried when the Berlin Wall came down a few years after my service. They were tears of joy that our mission, a mission that had gone on for decades, had come to a glorious end. People who had never experienced freedom were now free. I would like to take just a moment to remember Sergeant Doug Daniels, a member of my unit, who we lost to an unfortunate accident. May we remember your service and sacrifice, and the service and sacrifice of so many others, especially those lost in our most recent conflicts. To my fellow veterans, active duty military, and future members of the military, a very sincere thank you for your service. To the students, a very simple message from that 18-year-old girl from long ago. Allow yourself to be open to possibilities. Thank you again for inviting me to speak to you today. It really has been an honor. Spasiba, Zaval Horoshova, and do svidaniya.
Thank you, Dr. Howe. As a token of our appreciation for taking the time to speak to us all on Veterans Day. And thank you for your service to our country. Now to announce our local veteran tribute, please welcome the Enemy 771 Operations Group Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Damian Pack.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we pay tribute to each of our veterans and thank them in a small way for what they have given to ensure our nation remains the greatest free republic on the planet. As we spoke with our cadets last week, we discussed the cost of freedom. We also told them that there is never a day that goes by that a veteran does not think about his or her time in uniform and what they gave for our freedom. This tribute is but a small token of our appreciation for their sacrifices. At this time, I will read each veteran's name. As your name is called, one of the members of the Cadet Honor Guard will take one step forward and salute you for your service. We ask that you please return the salute. I will now read their names. Andy Ware, Captain, U.S. Army. Henry Pantola, Captain Sergeant, Command Sergeant, Major, U.S. Army. Philip B. Blaisdell, Sergeant Major, U.S. Army. Donald E. Felch, Chief Master Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, retired. Paul L. Perez, Master Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, retired. David Smith II, Technical Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, retired. Roxane Howe, Sergeant, U.S. Army. Justin Spencer, Sergeant, U.S. Army. Nick Damatopoulos, Specialist 4th Class, U.S. Army. And lastly, Killian McEnany, Private 1st Class, U.S. Army. We thank you for your selfless service to our nation. At this time, please welcome our Cadet Wing Commander, Cadet Colonel Kusha Carey.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, our honor guard will perform the traditional flag folding ceremony. A symbol of your service and what our flag means to our country. Today's flag ceremony represents the principles on which our country was originally founded in 1776. In the armed forces of the United States, at the ceremony retreat, the flag is lowered, folded in a triangle fold, and kept under watch throughout the night as tribute to our nation's honored dead. The next morning, it is brought out, and at the ceremony of reveal, run aloft the symbol of our belief in new life. The portion of the flag denoting honor is the canton of blue, containing the stars, representing the states who have provided the men and women who have served in uniform. The canton filled with the blue. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of our belief in God.
Yet loose the faithful lightning of this terrible sword.
The second fold is a symbol of our devotion to the United States of America.
Yet loose the terrible lightning of this terrible sword.
The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans who have departed our ranks.
His truth is marching on.
The fourth fold represents our resilience on God and guidance and strength.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
The fifth fold is a tribute to freedom and all it means to us.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
The sixth fold represents our heart, for it is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I've seen him at the watchtower of 100 sacred camps.
The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is with the armed forces who protect our country and our flag against all her enemies.
They builded him an altar in the evening dews and damps.
The eighth fold is a tribute to honor our mother's faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that has shaped the character of the men and women who have made this country great.
I've read his righteous sentence by the evening dews and damps.
The ninth fold is a tribute to fathers who gave their sons and daughters for the defense of our country.
His truth is marching on.
The tenth fold is a tribute to American families everywhere. Our strength is built upon their strength.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
The 11th fold is a symbol of our belief in justice and equality for all.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
The 12th fold represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies our faith in God.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
The 13th fold is a symbol of the 13 original colonies.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us their rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today. The stars are upmost, reminding us of our national motto: in God we trust. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of taps in remembrance of those who have fallen in service to our country and are unable to be with us today.
Good morning, Lowell High School. At this time, we're going to ask that all staff and students move to period 1. I will say that the event is wrapping up, but our cadets will join their period 1 class class when the ceremony is over. We just didn't want to hold up the whole school. Thank you all for participating in our Veterans Day ceremony. Thank you to the veterans at Lowell High School who served and for our cadets and staff for making this a great event. You can now go to period 1. Thank you.
Taps is played by LHS student Nicholas Howe. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Before we conclude, the LHS Sound Impressions Show Choir, under the direction of Mr. Michael Winslow, has a special presentation and song to honor all those who have served.
special thanks to all those who participated today. Our guest speaker Dr. Roxane Howe, the LHS Air Force Junior ROTC cadets, the LHS show choir, band member Nicholas Hoff, show choir member Haisa De Oliveira, Jessica DeViso in the Fine Arts Department, and the TV production crew. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please rise and cadets stand at attention as our veterans and distinguished visitors depart to the front entrance of the auditorium. Thank you and have a great day.